Well, we've gone through 3 Rocky movies now, and before we get into Rocky 80s, I mean Rocky 4, let's take a look at the story arc over the past 3 movies. Okay, the first film we see Rocky down in the rough and tough streets of Philly, taking beatings just to make ends meet. He fights Apollo and goes the distance, which goes right into Rocky 2, where we see Rocky enjoying his success, but with everybody dismissing him as some lucky bum. He does the best he can do to go another path, but he realizes fighting is what he needs to do. So he rematches Apollo and wins the title. Next is Rocky 3, where we see Rocky is on top, and he's developed an iconic celebrity status. He's defeated in a humiliating fashion, and now questions his own self-worth as a fighter. Apollo helps him find his confidence once again, and he's back on top by the end of the movie. So we see Rocky and everyone around him has gone through some ups and downs in the series so far. So the question entering Rocky 4 would be, what direction is this going to take now? Well, we get some over-stylized 80s cliches, a little bit of drama, a cardboard cutout set of villains, and a political standpoint. With all this in mind, you might think you're about to see something terrible, but in the end, Rocky 4 pulls through. So let's take a look at this 80s fest of over-the-top 80s-ness. Okay, this opening title, you see it? Yeah, let this be a sign of how crazy 80s and over-the-top it's actually going to be. Oh, before the movie goes on any further, we're going to keep count of all the 80s cliches in the movie. So we return to the average American home life of Rocky himself, where it's Paulie's birthday. Rocky anxiously awaits as our first cliche, Paulie's gift, comes through the dining room. Really? Really? Should I even mention this? Everybody else has fucking talked about it, why should I? An over-the-top, obnoxious piece of technology not humanly possible for 1985? There's one on the tally. Oh yeah, and the stock synthesizer music as the robot enters can also be counted, so there's 2. I feel bad for Paulie, really. The poor guy probably just wanted some money, or a car, or porn. But Rocky and Adrian insult Paulie by getting him this thing? Listen to what Adrian says.
Since you don't have any friends, we thought you'd like it.
Assholes. Anyway, let's move on. We see some Russian douchebag being top news for boxing as Apollo watches in disbelief. Dolph Lundgren plays the 1,000-pound cardboard man who we know as Ivan Drago, with his outspoken wife by his side, played by Bridget Nielsen, Stallone's actual wife at the time. No comment. We see the freakish strength of this savage beast through his publicized fitness test.
Drago averages 1,850 pounds. So the result's quite obvious.
And what results are those?
Whatever he hits, he destroys.
I wonder what would happen if he even sneezed. Achoo! So, his wife claims he's a natural athlete, with no use of anabolic steroids.
In the Soviet Union, has Drago partaken in any such experiments?
No, Ivan is naturally trained.
Then how do you explain his freakish strength?
Like your Popeye. He ate his spinach every day.
So Apollo heads back over to Rocky's house to talk about fighting the Siberian Husky, Tiger, whatever the fuck he is, when all of a sudden...
I mean, what at this point in your life is worth getting hurt for?
Get the hell out of here! This must have been an inside joke on Carl Weathers while trying to film the scene. It's a serious scene, but his reaction looks so real. There's another cliche.
Like I was saying,
Anyway, Apollo feels that the Russian people are trying to make American fighters look bad, and even the American people as a whole, and that someone should take a stand against them once and for all. This is where the first intelligent lines of the movie are spoken.
But do you think maybe it's like you against you? What do you think?
you know, I think you really are getting brain damage. That's what I think, Stallion.
Yeah, maybe, but yeah, really, I'm speaking the truth here, pal.
Are you?
Yeah.
I don't think I want to hear this, Stallion.
Oh, come on. Hey, Paolo, look. You were a great fighter, no doubt about that. But look, we got to face the facts, too. You don't want to believe it, but maybe the show is over.
And that's easy for you to say. You're still on top. What happens when you're not on top? Then what? Huh? Where do we go, Stallion? Because we sure as hell can't be born again.
No, it can't be born again, but, you know, let's face it, we got to change sometime.
I don't want to change, man. I like who I am.
I like who you are, too, but look at that, you know? You don't want to believe this, but that ain't us up there no more, pal. We can't do that the way we did it before. We're changing. We're like turning into regular people.
Apollo insists he's going through with this fight, especially seeing as it's a charitable exhibition. A press conference is held, and we get Apollo's usual classy, camera-friendly manner, and Drago has to remain silent for some reason. Hey, cardboard villain who says a lot by saying nothing.
In our country, Apollo Creed is well known and very respected.
Bullshit.
So an argument breaks out due to political tension, and Drago does his first emotional action of the movie. Hey, that cutout has more character than you. So the showcase for the fight begins as we get James Brown number. Misplaced musical number before an important scene? So we're ready as George Washington goes to tap gloves with Stalin right before the fight.
You need an interpreter? It's time to go to school.
You will lose.
Nice lisp, Arnold wannabe. The fight starts and Drago is massacring Apollo to everyone's dismay and shock, and he seems to be under a severe amount of abuse. It's like they took a few punches and set the movie on repeat for 3 minutes. He gets his ass kicked that bad. He comes back into the corner and Rocky lets him know he's gonna end the fight. Apollo tells Rocky to not throw in the towel no matter what, and after more devastating blows and Rocky being stubborn enough to not throw in the towel, Apollo collapses. This is where Drago speaks his brainwashed mind into showing us how much more character he doesn't have.
If he dies, he dies.
Nice glare, you Biff Tannen imposter.
What are you looking at, butthead?
I will say, however, Stallone did do an excellent job in creating a character we could really hate, even if it is the worst character in the entire series. Unfortunately, we head to Apollo's funeral, where I feel the movie makes a turn for the better. Rocky responds to Apollo's death by challenging Drago to another bout, to be held on Christmas in Moscow. Adrian finds out about the fight, but she wasn't told by Rocky, and she's shocked to hear about him challenging Drago after Apollo's death. Rocky insists he fight because it's the only thing he can do to honor his best friend's life. Rocky leaves the house to go through a classic 80s montage, and this is a great part of the movie with great music. The montage is full of all the defining moments of the last 3 films, which led to Rocky becoming what he is. And you could say this part of the movie really goes into Rocky's head as his mind is racing before the fight. So Rocky arrives in Russia to find out he's going to be followed by the only 2 men in Russia who are more stale and plain than Drago. Okay, maybe not that bad. The scene that follows, I don't know why, but I love it. Okay, maybe it's because of Paulie roasting the marshmallow. Maybe it's because of Alvin and the Chipmunks in the background, but I just love this scene. It's just so refreshing in its subtlety, unlike a lot of the flashier scenes in the movie. We finally get Duke's input on the fight, as he tells Rocky how much the fight means to him, which I really appreciate, seeing as how I feel Duke is an overlooked character, and he really gets to speak his mind here. We then go to both the fighters' training, as we see Rocky training and adjusting in the element, while Drago does more modern or unnecessary methods. Rocky is then surprised to find out that Adrian has come to join and support him, giving him that extra kick of motivation he needs to train. We then start another training montage, which is highly debated as the best training scene of the series. And oh yeah, it's fucking awesome. This time it's with a different song too, but it perfectly defines the tone of the movie, and also the generic 80s tone. We see Rocky continuing his battle with the harsh elements, and he's doing awesome, while Drago is taking fucking steroids? I mean, we all knew it, but come on! If he's suspected of doing them, why isn't he tested? Obviously, another cliche for the villains that are cheating and lying. And in the raging synth beat of this rockin' tune, Rocky scales a fucking mountain. Over the top? Yes. Awesome? Fuck yeah. Now it's fight night, and everybody in Russia is booing poor Rocky for being a big bad stinky. And everybody in Russia is booing poor Rocky for being a big bad stinky American. And apparently Drago is a Russian demigod. The fight is about to begin as the Russianator says the line that made him famous. And Rocky is getting a vicious beating round after round after round. However, he keeps getting up and won't quit against the big Russian ape. After many blows to the head, Rocky finally cuts the Gestapo wannabe. We head to the end of the fight where both the fighters should already be dead, but they manage to battle out one last round. Rocky goes straight to Drago, and he returns Drago's hits with a punch to, you guessed it, knock out the big lug. So Rocky wins the fight of his life, as he gives a speech commenting on the standpoints surrounding the fight, to which he gets applause from everybody. So what are my real thoughts on Rocky 4? Well, it's easy to poke fun at, as I did, but although it's flawed, it's still very entertaining. I'd say the biggest flaw is Drago himself, no pun intended, but the movie is far more formulaic than any of the other Rocky movies. That aside, it's very satisfying with the soundtrack, the fights, and the good feeling it leaves you with like every other Rocky. Rocky 4 is definitely not the best Rocky, but enjoyable nonetheless. Next up, Rocky 5.